John had been out of the country for 8.5 years. And the first thing that Farmer John did was to buy 6 new cows. We did not even have a decent barn. Then I went to spend time with our daughter Nabby, who had recently given birth. And while I was gone, Farmer John purchased 15 more cows. I feared he would soon overrun his farm with living creatures if something did not soon distract him. Be careful of what you wish. In April of 1789, John Adams was elected the first Vice President of the United States.
And although the 9 months that I had been at home had been the sweetest morsel of my life, my code of conduct would not allow me to turn down any public service. I accepted. So on April the 21st, 1789, I began my duties as Vice President and the Senate went to work, although George Washington was not inaugurated as President until April the 30th. Now I was to preside over the Senate. I was not allowed to participate in debate, one of my strengths. No, I had to sit there and listen and preside. Well, I very quickly came to the conclusion that the office of the Vice President was the most insignificant office ever conceived by the imagination of man. I needed my wife if I was to have any success at all. Abigail, I pray you, come as soon as possible. As to the place, let my brother plow and plant it as he will. And if nobody wants the place, then just leave it to the birds of the air and the beasts of the field.
I left for New York, which was then the capital, after making sure that all would run smoothly in my absence. We needed some security, for as of yet the Vice President had not yet been voted a salary. And when he was, not until July, it was only 1/5 of what the President was receiving. John complained about the insignificance of his office, yet he played an important role in the shaping of our early government. There were only 20 senators as that first Congress began, and 20 times John had to break ties with his vote, several having great effect on the office of the President and the strengthening of the executive branch of government. This was something else for which John was criticized, since some thought he was only trying to increase powers he felt would one day be his. Actually, I enjoyed our stay in New York. I enjoyed our home, became friends with Martha Washington, even going on a small vacation with her, and I came to admire her husband more than I had before. I said of him, no other man could rule over and consolidate this mighty empire than he. He ought to be immortal, for who could ever fill his place? I did have the burdens of official entertaining, but I also had the joy of being near some of my family. Nabby was close by. Thomas came to stay with us for a while after he graduated Harvard. John Quincy was establishing himself as a lawyer in Boston. And Charles, who seemed to be the most personable and outgoing of the 3 boys, also seemed to have inherited a strain from the Smith side of the family, the enjoyment of and the attachment to alcohol. My brother died because of drink. Charles would always repent and vow to do better. At one point he was living with his sister, and I thought, well, he's with family. Perhaps there's hope for him yet. The following year, the seat of government was moved to Philadelphia. Now, the climate there did not agree with me. My rheumatism came on with a vengeance. The bloodlettings and the emetics which were supposed to cure me only left me weaker. I felt it best if I returned to Braintree. I would not go back to Philadelphia for another 5 years. Only I didn't really return to Braintree, as the town had been divided and renamed. The southern portion retained the name Braintree, but the northern half, where we now lived, was named Quincy, in honor of my famous maternal grandfather, Colonel John Quincy.
By 1790, the French Revolution had occurred and was hailed by many Americans as another step forward for liberty. Some went so far as advocating that we should get rid of our 3-tiered system of government and go with the French model of just one large assembly of the people. Well, I spoke out against that. I said that would lead to the rise of demagogues and disorder. When I made my point of view known, I was denounced by some as a monarchist, an opponent of the common man. And a serious rift was beginning to develop between Thomas Jefferson and myself. Thomas was a very ardent supporter of the French and their revolution. Mr. Jefferson, my old friend, was slowly becoming Mr. Jefferson, my opponent.